welcome to the podcast. Everything is dramatic. I have some very exciting news for all you listeners out there in the podcast ether. This is going to be our season finale. We're going to take a indeterminate hiatus. I mean, we'll be back. Don't worry, we're going to be back. But we have a great episode to end it off on. We're talking about politics. Politics is the whole conversation. So if you're into that and want to hear some half-assed opinions, we try our best to not have a bias and point out the flaws in both sides. So sit back, tune in, turn on, drop out, get in your safe spaces, join us, and thank you for listening to episode number 58 of Everything is Traumatic.
Hi, I'm Jeff, and I'm a therapist.
And I'm Tyler, and I'm a patient.
We're going to talk about trauma, healing, and everything. Everything is traumatic.
Apparently, you do have a lot of possum lore, but
yeah,
speaking of possum lore and things having their own cuteness to it and things appearing ugly, Jeff, I'm just gonna fucking Kawasaki. I don't know. Is that racist? I don't want to be racist. I'm sorry. I'll take that out. I'm just gonna bomb you with my thought of what I want to talk about. And I mean, we can go any direction we want. We don't care. We normally do, but that's fine. But at least for me, I have noticed that there's just a lot more. I mean, comment sections on social media sites have kind of been a cesspool for really shitty comments for a long time. Yeah. But does it feel like it's ramped up a little more? Does it feel like people are getting more and more angry now that like the election is very close and like
it's an election year? I mean, there's a non-election year angst, and then there's election year angst, and it's just ramped up. I mean, it's terrible. Even like me, who's got like a blue wave like banner. That's my thing. Cats and a blue wave. Like some Democrats or some like liberal folks are getting mad at me for my Beyonce jokes. And it's like, have you followed me? Are you reading what I'm saying? I said something about like Beyonce didn't show up, another political promise broken, and the guy went off on me. Oh. That night was about Paris, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm not making fun of her. I'm making fun of Beyonce and people wanting Beyonce. But I mean, I don't know. I know sometimes what's in my head makes sense, and then I put it out, and it's like I know what I'm talking about. But still, yeah, you're right. It's worse than ever.
Well, I think everyone's a little on edge. Everyone's like really not wanting their candidate in. They're really not wanting the opposition's candidate in. And, I'm trying to like not show like a bias either way. I mean, obviously I do have a bias, but it's, I don't know, not helpful. It's not helpful to just be like, hey, they all both suck. Like, of course they both suck, but one clearly sucks a lot harder than the other.
I've got a huge bias, but I don't see the purpose in posting lots of pro or anti candidate stuff on Facebook or whatever place you use. You're not convincing anybody. You're not changing anybody's mind. So I will like sometimes people's comments, but I try not to argue when people post mean stuff about my bias or whatever. It's just not, and this is a different me. This is a different Jeff. In the past, I felt like I had to argue with people and convince. It's just, Keanu Reeves said something that I just think is all about aging. He's like, I'm not in the point right now where I want to argue with anybody. So if somebody says 1 and 1 plus 1 is 5, I say, yeah, buddy, you're right. I'm not going to argue. it takes so much energy to argue, and so many people get caught up in that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, do you think you're changing minds here? Nobody's changing their mind. Everybody's decided. There's no, I mean, no people know who they're going to vote for. There's nobody that's like, well, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to the debate and just hear what they have to say. maybe I'll change my mind.
I mean,
listen.
Yes and no. I want to say, like, I think there are people that are switching to the other side. There are people that don't like Harris. They're like, well, I don't want to vote for Harris, and
sure.
They will bring themselves to vote for Trump and vice versa.
But don't you think that's already there? I mean, it's if you're anti-Harris, you're not going to be pro-Harris all of a sudden after debate, right?
I mean, maybe not. I mean, I don't even know if we'll get a debate with him. I mean, I feel like we should, because I think it would be like a huge turning point. I think it would be kind of a shoe-in for her personally, because it just kind of seems like Trump's losing it. And
yeah, he seems a little bit, and we're I mean, this is just observation. We're a psychological show, and so we can talk about our cycle. His energy does seem low. He is older. I think he is very perplexed and frustrated that he does not have another candidate that is also sort of old and low energy. That was sort of the winning formula, is two older guys that are low energy, and which one do you think is the least older?
Yeah, that's what it seemed like.
He's definitely seeming to have some loss of focus. He's having trouble staying on message, and that's interesting to watch. So yeah, it'd be a debate would be interesting. And I mean, it might change some minds, but don't you? I mean, it's just like you've got, I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch. It's like sort of a train wreck is interesting to watch.
Oh yeah. Who doesn't love a good train wreck? I mean, really, who? It's been a train wreck. Like, we might as well. I do get what you're saying, and it does very much like feel that way. It feels like people are pretty like cemented in their stance, and it's hard, like, based on what you see online and what you see recently in social media. There's a lot of hate. There's a lot of like negativity going around there. And it's hard not to feel like, well, these people are never going to change.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know, like, if you look deeper, like, why is there so much negativity? Is because people are scared.
You got it. Yep.
They're very uncertain of like what's going to happen.
Yes.
And we all already do not like change. Change is, I mean, at least for me, I can't stand fucking change. Like, someone, that's why I always use my debit card. I mean, I don't want change back. I give it back. I don't want it. That was dumb. But
there's still change happening there. You're just not getting it.
Right. And
it's just electronic change.
Yes. And people just think like we're kind of like catastrophizing, and it's hard not to, but we're catastrophizing like this person is going to lead a bigger step into the wrong direction. Was what we're feeling. We're like, whoever is elected, if Trump is elected, we're fucked. If Harris is elected, we're fucked. We wouldn't have been fucked if we got fucking Robert F. Kennedy. He would have told us all about Area 51, but he had to drop out. I do not endorse him at all. I'm glad he dropped out, but
I mean, he was interesting. Well, I mean, he's endorsed Trump now.
He was the most interesting
he was so
candidate.
Interesting. It's like, hey, before you start the interview, I have some murders I'd like to confess to.
Yeah.
I was sodomizing minors last night, just after dinner, like one does, and I thought I'd just talk about it.
Like, he has managed to creep out. He has managed to creep out Roseanne. Like, think about that for a second.
He was sort of the anti-Biden, anti-Trump, anti-now Harris person. Like we've got a choice, right? We've got at least this guy that seems to have some different opinions. I mean, he's very progressive on some issues and a little more conservative on some issues. So he was interesting. But then he's the guy like with the whole bear thing started, and it's just like, yeah, okay.
Oh, that
It,
was that
we
was your turning point. The brainworm was perfectly fine.
I don't even know what a brain worm is.
It's just like
Is that a real thing?
I think it's, I don't know if it's a brain worm necessarily. It was a worm that was found in his brain that had eaten part of
Wait,
his brain.
was it from him eating like meat or something? Did he eat
Oh,
like some?
probably. Like, are you going to look at me and say that this guy does not eat raw meat? Like this, he likes his steak rare. he,
I mean, he's like talk. He apparently really eats roadkill. He. I mean, he's a Kennedy, so there's got to be some resources there, right?
Sure,
I
but
mean,
like he's a Kennedy, so therefore he's like
there you go.
he wants
Yeah,
to defy the Kennedy
yeah,
expectation. Like I've seen, I don't
yeah.
know if this is true or holds weight, but like I saw a post from like the rest of the Kennedys that were just like, this
Oh
motherfucker
yeah.
is crazy. We do not own him. He is not a Kennedy. We are stripping him of his Kennedy-ness.
And like again, we're a psychological program. So this is Robert's son, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Robert
yeah. It's
Kennedy's son that
Robert F.
was
Kennedy Jr.
yeah, that was shot, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I mean, this man has the Kennedys have had some tragedy in their lives. I mean, it. So this young man, this as a young man, his father died. I mean, it's in a traumatic way, and so I'm sure he has had a life of craziness and loss and all that stuff. But he sort of even trumped that. Not using it. Not he's
He
he's
trumped
like
it.
he's taking it to the next level. I guess, right?
He
I
trumped
mean,
it. Yeah,
he
you said it
trumped. Oh, he
perfect.
did. He played the trump card.
He played the trump card. Like, which
So
is,
there's a site called Babylon Bee, which I typically do not like. It's like a Christian satire site,
mm,
and it used to be sort of funny, and then it got taken over by a conservative group, and then they just basically weren't funny anymore. But they posted something that I thought was hilarious. It was basically like Trump seeks Kennedy on the trail to distract the gunfire from him. And it's just like, okay, that's sort of funny,
mm,
the whole
yeah.
idea that people are shooting Kennedys and like Trump's like, I don't want to get shot. Let's put a Kennedy up there. But yeah,
I
I feel like we are in the weirdest of timelines with the COVID thing was like the beginning. It's like whoever our overlords are started with the COVID thing, and then they're throwing all the Trump, the
mm.
Bears, Beyonce, everything at us just to see if we snap. I mean, it's got to be a controlled experiment. We're the experimental group that they're throwing all the stuff at to see what happens.
I really think the move. I guess it happened last night when Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yes.
Jr. Came
Yeah.
out. Jr. came out there and and endorsed Trump. I really think the move, they should have done it like wrestling. They should have had JD Vance come out, like his entrance
Yeah.
music on the Jumbotron and everything, and like Trump and
Yeah.
JD Vance have a banter, and he's like, JD Vance, we're gonna. I feel rejuvenated, or I feel revigorated. And JD Vance is like, yeah, whatever. And he's just like, but you know what? I can't make it to the White House without an already existing president. And then like Robert F. Kennedy's music starts playing, and it's
Yeah. Yeah.
JDR is just like, oh my god, it's
I mean,
Kennedy.
they should be
It's like,
listening to you, man.
and
I
like,
mean, they need an excitement. WCW would be. I mean, Trump's done stuff for wrestling before, hasn't he?
I know
Hasn't he
exactly.
like?
But what I'm saying is like he drops Vance, makes Kennedy
Yeah,
his vice president.
there was actually a rumor that Kennedy wanted to be the vice president. So Did you see the footage of JD Vance in the donut shop?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
I
That
mean,
was.
I- so I want to be equal opportunity here because I think I heard a really interesting quote one time, and it's I don't know who said it, but it's you understand that the left wing and the right wing are both part of the same bird.
Yes.
And there is a part of that I agree with. The political machine is a political machine, and there are things that both sides do or support that are going to lead to problems. And I think that we have to be clear that there is not a right thing that's just going to fix the world. I mean, both sides have done things wrong. They will continue to do things wrong. No matter who is elected, there's going to be problems. But JD has got some problems, man. He can't have a conversation. He is creepy. Um, I like Walls, but he's got some mannerisms that are a little. I mean, he's got the coach vibe, which is great, but it's also a little weird. You know, everything's like a coach thing. You know,
Mm.
we're on the fourth quarter kind of thing, and so it's. But the vice president's job is to sort of just be the whipping boy. They have no real role. They're just there to support the main person. It's like the tag team. Remember using the
Yeah.
wrestling
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
that never
Yeah.
gets
Yeah.
tagged.
Mm.
You're like, oh, they're like, tag me, tag me, tag me, and the like guy's like, I got this. So, but it's an interesting kind of it's it's just a weird time we live in.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to your quote about left wing, right wing are still part of the same bird. If you really like take a step back and look at it, like what we call the liberal, the left, is still very conservative comparatively to what being left wing actually is.
Sure,
Like
a
as
very
far,
progressive movement. Yeah,
yes. So, and we have it in our heads like it's a very like American thing that anything different than what we have currently or what we had is wrong. It's scary,
yeah,
it's different like we the enemy is communism, the enemy is socialism, like these things
yes,
are what scare Americans like deeply when it's like we have implemented and still have going like socialist ideas like social security is a
yeah,
socialist idea.
yeah. Medicare.
Medicare, like these things, like we think that they're going to ruin it, and the big argument is like who's going to pay for it. We'll have to
Uh
pay
huh.
for it because the people have to pay for it, and it's like
Uh huh.
people
Or are
do,
you paying
yes,
for it?
or but there are fucking billionaires that could pay a larger sum. Oh,
Yeah.
but they worked hard for that. No, they exploited hard for that. There is a difference. There is a difference. Yeah,
Well, and
that's like saying Tom Sawyer worked hard to paint the white
yeah,
fence. No, he
it's very
didn't.
interesting to me because we haven't talked a whole lot about libertarians, but the whole libertarian, there are a lot of libertarian ideals I like. But this whole idea of we don't need to pay taxes and we're just going to take care of stuff, it's like everybody has benefited from the structure that is in the world. I mean, Democrats, Republicans, liberals, we have roads, we have regulations, we have things that everybody's like, well, we don't need those things. It's like, yeah, that's easy to say when you have those things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we are taxation is theft. Blah, blah, blah. It's just like, so who takes care of some of these things? Well, it's just like everybody's got their own little box that they live in, and that's me too. We all live in a box,
Mm-hmm.
and I am try to open myself to other ideas, but I still live in my box. I see things through a certain framework. Um, I try not to, when I find myself getting angry and wanting to respond to something that's mean or whatever, I'm trying to learn just to stand back because I don't feel like it's useful to just throw gasoline on the fire. So I tend to do it through like satire or absurdity, and sometimes that is a little bit of a poke. I do like to poke, but I'm not going to argue with anybody. I'm just not going to argue. I mean, I would, I think you and I could sit and argue about maybe a political idea, and it would be fine because we respect each other and we would be doing it for fun. But I don't want to convince anybody. It's not my responsibility to convince you to vote one way or the other or to vote at all. That's your decision.
Mm.
If you want to know who I'm going to vote for, I'll tell you and I'll tell you why. But I don't have to coerce you. That's not my job.
No, I don't think the idea is to. I don't think the idea is to coerce, and I think I think the reason you and I could have a discussion like this, and like it's something I've experienced within my family, and I'm sure a lot of people have experienced this in their families, is that things have gotten super aggressive to where it's hard to have a disagreement about a marginalized group of people. Like
Yeah.
that, someone's basic human rights is not up for debate. And we tend to think that it is because it's something that isn't directly affecting us. We are not,
Yeah.
me and you are not transgendered. Me and you are not,
Right. Right.
like
And we have to fight for that. I mean, we have to realize our place of privilege, being white men. We have to remember that, and that yes, you're right. You are right. Sometimes it's about fighting for people that are going to be affected by things that aren't going to affect you. And I think it's very easy to be like, well, that's not going to be my problem.
yeah, it's
I'm a
easy.
male. I don't need reproductive health care. I'm
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah. We have it in our heads for whatever reason that like, okay, we're the ones that can make the most sound decision for
Yeah.
women's reproductive rights because
Yeah.
it's not directly affecting us, so we don't have an
Yeah.
emotional bias towards it, and it's like we
Right.
we should.
Or if we're a cisgender white male, we are not. We have friends or people we know that might be LGBTQ, but it's not. Again, it's not. We can go out in public and not worry about being beat up or harmed or discriminated against in some way. Which is a constant thing for. I'm not going to give too much information, but I have a client who's like they're going to move to another part of the country that's a little more moderate or liberal. And if Trump gets reelected, they're going to move out of the country because they are fearful of their safety, And so I don't ever worry about that, but they do. And I think
Hmm.
people are thinking those thoughts. What am I going to do if a certain candidate gets elected
Hmm.
to be safe, to be able to walk down the street and not be harmed?
Hmm.
And that's a different kind of that's a important place to put yourself into because it's very easy to say, well, I'll be fine. But you're right about that. We do need to protect people that don't have as powerful of a voice because people minimize them.
And you look at where these debates that come up, like you look at where these root causes of why they, I don't know, for example, I mean, and I don't know, I don't know a whole lot about being transgender or anything, so I don't want to offend, and I hope I don't. And if I do, someone call me out on it so I can learn and be educated on it. But I don't want to. I don't know. It sounds like I'm about to say something really offensive. I'm not, but like I'm just using the example of when someone else says to someone that is trans, "You are not the gender you feel like you are. You're the one that
Yeah,
you are assigned at birth."
yeah,
Like that, the reason that like someone like they try to logic their way out of it, but they logic their way out of it into thinking like, oh, because of this biology and this thing, and it's like
yes,
you learned that
yes,
in high school like almost 20 fucking years ago, 10 fucking years
yeah,
ago. Are you
yeah,
trying to tell me that the definitions of sex and gender cannot change,
yeah,
cannot shape and form presented with new data and new things like, and a lot of other like their beliefs or people's beliefs are in like a religious thing and this dogmatic thing that I can't help but to feel resentful for. Like a few bad apples ruins the whole damn batch. Like, you have a
Yeah.
lot of bad apples in certain religious groups that are fucking it up for the
Yeah.
rest of you.
Yeah, you hit it right on, my friend. I think that we think, and I think it may be part of our human condition. We think in very binary terms. We think in X's and O's. We look at things in a very binary way
Mm.
because that's just sort of how we're taught. You know, we are, I mean, when a child is born, they are assigned gender by genitalia,
Mm.
right? That's how you choose sex or gender is by genitalia.
Mm.
And genitalia is not gender. I mean, it is a physical thing. But we're so different. Every man is different. Every
Mm.
woman is different. Everybody is different. We're all different individual people. And I think that one of the most freeing things for me, coming from a very dogmatic Christian evangelical background, was to be able to see things in grays and to see things as mysterious and to also understand that I don't understand everything. And I think it's a binary world. It's a Trump or Kamala world. If we get Trump, we're good or bad. If we get Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, we're good or bad. It's just we can't see in those grays, and so we tend to think in blacks and whites. And then
Mm.
we tribalize. We get in our tribes, we get in our echo chambers, and then we feel like everybody thinks the way we do. How could somebody think differently? But the arguments I hear are that if Trump gets elected, we're going to go into a dictatorship. If Harris gets elected, we're going to go into a dictatorship. This will be the last election we have if Trump gets elected. This will be the last election we have if Harris gets elected. It's the same thoughts. I heard somebody that's a very strong supporter of Trump saying Democrats must be in a cult. They all think the same. And I've heard exactly the same thing said about
Mm.
people that follow Trump. And so we we can't see that that sort of strangeness of we're basically saying the exact same thing is going to happen if this happens, you know?
And okay, so here's what's weird too is that I don't understand why the other side would think that if Harris wins, she's going to become a dictator. She hasn't come out and said it. Well, that's because she doesn't need to come out and said it. Yeah, whatever.
Right. Because
I'm
that's what
sure,
they're going to do.
but meanwhile, Trump has literally said it. Like,
But he didn't mean
oh, he
you
didn't
know
mean it. Why are we
he
treating
didn't
him
mean it.
like
Y'all are just so he's joking. He's just a
he's
jokester.
just joking? No, he.
He's just kidding about it. But I mean, it's that kind of thing. And so, like, but it's the same way for if VP Harris used to say something or had made something in the past, and somebody else said, "Well, she said this." People will say, "Well, she's evolved," and so we take whatever our bias is, and we will defend our bias, but then we will attack the other side.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be clear. I am not a fan of Trump. I think he is I think it's a destructive, very tribal kind of thing. I think he's a disaster. He would be a disaster for our country. I tend to believe that our country would survive even if he tried to become a dictator. I don't know. Um, but I understand where my biases. Those are my biases. I'm a very liberal-minded person. But I have disagreements with the Democratic Party on things. They didn't let a Palestinian speak on the floor of the
Hmm.
Democratic Convention from the stage. And I understand why, right? It's political. Harris made a, VP Harris made a statement that I thought was a decent statement, but it was very pro-Israel. And I know why you have to be pro-Israel if you're running for office, right? But I'm not satisfied with what we have done in this issue. I don't feel like we have addressed it like we should. There is something going on that is horrible,
Hmm.
and we are glossing over it.
Yep.
I understand why politicians have to do what they're doing, but I don't feel like we have answered the voice of so many people that are hurting. it's a genocide. I mean, I may get some flak for that, but I feel like it's a genocide of the
Well,
people.
it is 100% a genocide.
Yeah,
it's a, but we've invested so much into Israel,
yeah.
and we're not anti-Semitic. Because if you don't support Israel, you're anti-Semitic. Is the general like consensus, it seems. But yeah, going back
It's
to what I was saying about the left, what we consider liberal in America is still
yeah,
pretty fucking conservative. Like both sides can agree on that issue
yeah,
that
yeah,
we need to support Israel in this.
yeah.
So
I mean, it totally makes sense why, as a politician, you have to do that. But at the end of the day, what is right? What we will we will look back on what is happening in Israel just a horrible human rights and disaster. And that does not say that. I mean, Hamas went into Israel and killed innocent people, and they have innocent hostages, and that is horrible. And so there are both sides that have the question here. The people that are not to blame are the people in Palestine. They are not to blame for what a group of people does.
yes, a small faction of a
Yes.
population doing something does not cost the lives of the full demographic.
And
Like,
if you look at what Israelis think, people that live in Israel, there is quite a bit of progressive anger at their government. I mean, they are not fans of a lot of Israelis are not fans of their administration, and they are not fans of the war machine. And so I feel like there will be change, but um, it's these tightropes you got to watch, right? You can't say what you think. You got to say it in a code, right? So Harris had to say basically, we're pro-Israel, but we're also against killing innocent people. It, it was a statement,
yeah,
but
she was definitely trying to have her cake and eat it too with that one.
yeah.
And
Well, I mean, somebody wrote that for her. I mean, she's a smart person. But so that was written. That was very clinically stated. She had to say something about pro-Israel. She had to say something about the Palestinians. She had to say both.
yep,
And there's agendas that America has. This is the thing about whoever's president. It is important, but there are agendas America has that are happening, that just happen, that are going to happen no matter who is. America, at the end of the day, only cares about America.
in
And they have
America's
been parts of
interest,
these
yeah.
genocides. I mean, the Vietnamese War was a genocide of sorts.
Yeah, so going back to where we kind of started all this, like we've established that America does shady shit. I think we can all agree on that. And yet we are
Sure.
bickering among ourselves about people being nasty and very trivial things when it's like, I don't know. It feels like this is why it feels very hopeless. Like this, we need a new fucking bird. Left wing, right wing. We need a new bird. We need a new fucking
Yeah.
bird. We need a substantial change or
Maybe
something.
something that's the left wing, the right wing, and the tail, which is sort of a progressive mix of some of these very different issues. We need something else to help, and um, we can't do it. Speaking of binary, what do we got? Republican and Democrat, right?
Yes.
Everything's binary. That's the way we see things. You can't do this. You can't do this. I mean, we got to have some flexibility. We got to be able to see the grays. We got to be able to say, this might not affect me, but how might this affect somebody else? You know,
Yeah, exactly.
I, I don't know, man.
No, that's a really good. I think that's a good thought to kind of end things on. Honestly, like Like, I think what we like, regardless of our biases, I think what we're advocating for is to just be a little fucking nicer. Let's not,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's, I don't, I really don't know how to word this other than
Well,
this of like,
okay.
if you have religious teachings, if you have these things that have been instilled in you since you were growing up, really reevaluate them and really reevaluate the message that they're trying to say, because the message isn't as hateful as you're making it out to be.
Yeah.
The things that you think are a detrimental sin aren't a detrimental sin. And
Yes.
realize that you cannot change any sin. So just love and accept people and try to do the
Yeah.
right thing. Because,
No matter what party you are, no matter what religion you are, or non-religion, you can be kind to people. You can be nice to people. You can treat other people, even if they are from the other party or the other religion, kindly. That doesn't mean you're agreeing with them, but we can treat each other with decency.
yes, we've forgotten how to
Um,
be decent.
yes.
But, Jeff, this has reached its logical conclusion. Um, I'll mention this in the beginning of the episode. I'll say it again, though. Me and you, we're gonna take a little break for I don't know how long, but we're just gonna take a little break here, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to take a break now. Tyler and I are going to continue to talk,
Yeah,
but
we're still
we're not
friends.
going to post the weekly show. We're going to continue to have some doing some things, but for right now, we're going to just take a snooze from the weekly Everything is Traumatic podcast. You may hear from us in different ways at different times, but I've got to have some surgery done. I'm going to have a tail
Hmm.
implanted, so
That's right.
there's going to be some healing for that, and then, but you'll hear from us. We'll be around.
Yeah, we'll be around. But before we go, we'll read off the last couple of emails we got. If you listened last week, we've gotten a flurry of emails from a weird email here. I'm just gonna read off. They sent two messages. I wanna combine them. So this one says, "Who the hell is Tyler anyway? Does he live on
Wow.
Broadway? Fuck thar
Wow.
shit."
Wow.
So that was kind of odd.
That's just weird.
So there's that. But then we also got an email from Vin.
Okay.
From Vin here. Vin writes, "Dearest Jeff and Tyler, thank you for asking for my. Let me try that again. Thank you for asking for my thoughts. I don't think anyone has done that since my third grade teacher asked me what I was thinking after I let my pet rat out of its cage during show and tell. How was I supposed to know Mikey, my pet rat, wanted to run away or that he would take up residence in the walls of my elementary school for the next 5 years? Anyways, back to my thoughts about your show. I didn't appreciate the emails from that other emailer. I mean, it is one thing to hate yourself, as you too clearly and rightfully do, but for someone else to hate you, or at least Jeff, is just not acceptable. I am glad that someone else is emailing and more should, but come on." And those are my thoughts. Oh, maybe you could discuss how traumatic having a conversation in groups can be for someone who have trouble having conversations in groups. Traumatically yours, Vin Win. Well,
Wow.
Vin, that's a really good point, and I think we kind of did that this episode. So I think in a
Yeah.
way you got your wish. I mean, having conversations in groups is traumatic.
It is. Well, I wonder what will happen to Ben and this other person during our hiatus.
I don't know, Jeff. I don't know, but I think things are looking bright. Things are going in a very clear direction. I don't see anything bad happening to either one of us anytime soon.
I can't see how anything bad could happen.
No, I
I
don't.
mean,
No misfortune could fall us, especially in this moment. Just could not happen. I don't think it could happen. Jeff?
oh, oh,
Jeff?
ow!
Jeff? Jeff, are you okay? Jeff? Jeff? Jeff?